Welcome to Wisemo Tutorials. This video teaches you how to set up and configure a private connection server. It also explains why you should consider to host your own connection server. The video is intended for myCloud domain administrators and anybody else who has a general interest in the topic. Please note that only myCloud domain administrators will see and have access to the configuration I'll show in the following. The video assumes that you have created a myCloud domain and have installed the Wisemo guest and host modules. It also assumes that you have a general working experience with myCloud and knows how to establish remote control connections. Please look on the instructions videos page in the myCloud menu to the left if you want to know more about creating a myCloud domain and how to install and configure the guest and host modules. To explain what a connection server is, I'll start with the guest and host. So, a guest would like to connect to the host over the internet. But it cannot because the host is behind a firewall. And the host cannot connect to the guest because that's behind a firewall. That is where the connection server comes in, because both the guest and host can make outgoing connections to the connection server. So a connection server is a bridge or a routing point between the guest and host. It's a bit more complicated than that, but an important takeaway from this setup is that all data that is exchanged between the guest and host goes through the connection server or directly between the guest and host. Nothing goes through myCloud itself. myCloud's only role here is to tell the guest and host which connection server to use. myCloud has a number of public connection servers spread around the globe, and we're adding more as the load increases. A connection server for a particular connection between a guest and host is chosen based on geography and load on the closest connection servers. Also, the pool of available connection servers gives fault tolerance because the state of all connection servers is monitored, and if a problem occurs or is detected with a connection server, it's taken out. But why should you host and use a private connection server? As you don't share it with anyone else, and because you can install it close to where you actually need it, you're likely to get a better performance. Another reason could be privacy. Even though all data routed through the public connection servers is end-to-end encrypted, so Wisemo or anyone else wouldn't be able to read it, you might feel safer to use your own servers. Or you might be required to by regulation or policies. You can install as many private connection servers as you like to handle the load and address fault tolerance. Fault tolerance can also be obtained by allowing fallback to the public connection servers. Let's look at how we set up a private connection server. Log into your myCloud domain and go to Settings, Connection Server. Click the button Add Private Connection Server. Enter a description. Let's call it CS1. Enter the public IP address. The public IP address is an IP address that allows direct access from the internet to the PC the connection server runs at. This might involve some firewall configuration or that the connection server runs in a DMZ. If you install the connection server in a virtual PC at some hosting provider like Microsoft Azure or AWS, you will usually find the public IP address in the management interface. In the drop-down list, you can specify whether this server should accept connections on TCP, HTTP, or both. The default value is both. Leave the TCP and HTTP ports at the default values. Click Add Server. Click the download link to download a pre-configured connection server. Click the link. When the installation is downloaded, run the installation. Click the Finish button and the connection server will start. Now that it's started, you'll notice that it's actually an advanced host. This also means that you cannot install a host and a connection server on the same PC, but you can remote control the connection server via TCP and its public IP address. Please be sure to set proper credentials in guest access privileges. And please note that you cannot use myCloud device access control because the connection server doesn't have a myCloud communication profile. So use, for example, Windows Security Management. Let's go back to the status pane and let's go to the new tab called Routing. It's currently empty. Go back to myCloud in the browser. Click the refresh button below the list of connection servers. And now you can see that our connection server is online. myCloud heard from this connection server last time 10 seconds ago. A connection server will send a heartbeat to myCloud every 20 seconds. Go back to the connection server. While we look at the routing tab, I'll make a connection between two PCs. We see an entry in the list saying pending, and now routing. So that's it. You have set up a private connection server. You can add more connection servers to support higher load and fault tolerance. One connection server can support many simultaneous connections, but the performance depends on the network bandwidth to the server, hardware performance, including to some extent the CPU performance. Let's go back to the browser and look at some options for the connection server. First, notice the switch. Fall back to using public connection servers if all private connection servers are offline. It's currently enabled, but you can disable it if you never want your connections to go through the public connection servers. Secondly, if you edit your connection server profile, you can temporarily disable it so it will no longer accept new connections. You would do that before doing maintenance work on the connection server PC or the app. That would mean that the connection server would be unavailable. Unchecking accept connections doesn't mean that ongoing connections are forcefully disconnected or transferred to another connection server. After unchecking accept connections, you will have to go to the connection server and look at the routing tab and wait for all connections to terminate. You can force a disconnect for a connection by right-clicking and selecting delete. Back to the browser again. We left the port numbers by their default values. If you would, for example, use another port for TCP connections, you should specify the port number here. For example, 1971. Click Update and go to the connection server. We don't have any connections, so we can proceed. Select the configuration pane, communication profiles, open the TCP profile, click Advanced, uncheck Use default port numbers, and enter the new port number 1971 for the receive port. And click OK and OK. For the changes to take effect, you will have to restart communication on the connection server. Click the Restart button in the toolbar. When you are finished with maintenance, you should remember to check Accept Connections again. And that's it. All connections through this connection server will use port 1971 from now on. This concludes this tutorial. Thank you for watching.